Shabbat Parak Vav Mishnah Hey. We're going to continue listing all the things that a person can and cannot go out with on Shabbat. Okay. It's important to remember when we learn these things, the differences in culture and the way that they would use things in the time. And it's also important to understand that nowadays people do go out with all these things for a bunch of different reasons. One, most of our public spaces are not Rishta Rabbim. In fact, there's a machloket if there even is a Rishta Rabbim. Two, the custom just became that people would go out with jewelry and things of that nature, and women didn't take off their jewelry and hand it to one another, and poskim sort of adopted to that practice. And because we're all the dinei d'Rabbanan, most of these are din d'Rabbanan, the poskim did not protest. And we're going to see the same thing with what's called a pe'anachrit in our Mishnah, as I'll explain. Mishnah says, Yotzei isha b'chutei seyar. A woman can go out with chutei seyar, which means if she ties her hair. We learned in the first Mishnah that a woman, let's go back to the first Mishnah in the Perek. Mishnah Aleph. The Mishnah says the following, okay? Lo teitze isha lo b'chutei tzemer v'lo b'chutei pishtan. If she tied her hair with wool strings or with linen strings, okay, or other ritzuot or other straps, we were afraid she would take them out because if she had to go towel in the mikvah, suddenly she came upon a be'er mayim, a water well, then she would take them out, okay, because they were tight and she knew that they had to be loosened. I also want to. We're going to see this Mishnah again a corollary to our Mishnah. Okay, so first of all, nobody does that nowadays. Whoever here's a mikvah, let me go tova. That's one thing. But moreover, okay, the difference between chutei seyar and chutei tzemer is very difficult for us to understand. Women use hair of their own. If their hair fell out, they would take it and tie up their hair. Be'mishela, whether it was hers, be'mishel chaverta, it was her friends. Be'mishel behema, it was an animal, let's say a horse hair, along, from the tail of the horse or whatever, she would use it to tie her hair up. So she could go out because the Bartanura says because they weren't tied as tight as the chutim, as the strings of wool and of linen. So therefore, if they had to go to the mikvah, then she would go to the mikvah and with her hair tied up because it was tied loosely. It's hard for us to understand because nowadays, first of all, nobody goes to a mikvah outside. Nobody comes upon a place and says, oh, I have to tova. And moreover, we're much more careful about women going to the mikvah. They take everything out of their hair because they're worried about a chatzitza. Ube totefet, ube sanbutin. We saw these terms. You could look back in Mishnah Aleph. Totefet is the sort of the forehead band that she wore. And the sanbutin were the decorations that came down, they were sort of like earrings, but they weren't on your ear. They were connected to the tofetefet. Bisman shein tfurin. When they were tied, remember, women they wore, as I said, they wore the snooty thing, right? And on top of that, they would wear this forehead kind of headbandy thing. And then on top of that, they would sometimes wear a hat. Okay, and that's a kavul. So the totefet and the sanbutin were the thing that she would wear, and sometimes they would tie it, tfurin, they would sew it to the snoot itself. It was a one piece as opposed to different pieces. So when they're tfurin, then she can wear that because she can't take it off. Similarly, bekavul, ubepe'anochrit, kavul is the hat that she wore, the little hat that she wore on top of her snoot, or someone wear a pe'anochrit. Pe'anochrit was a kind of wig. Okay, la chatzer, that she can wear in her chatzer because she wants to look nice in the chatzer, and we're not afraid she's going to take it off because if she does, it's only to Rabbanan. Similarly, but nowadays, by the way, women wear pe'anochrit all the time, and they wear it outside as well, the way they wear other items of jewelry outside. Let's say she puts a moch, she puts a cotton, a sponge in her ear. Okay, or puts a sponge in her shoe. She's uncomfortable, she has some kind of injury. That's a sponge, and nowadays we call that a tampon in order to absorb the blood. She's allowed to go out with those things. Okay, the Bartanura says, because we're not afraid she's going to take it off. The Bartanura says, Azna, okay, if it's in her ear or her shoe, she shouldn't go unless it's kashrur mudak, unless it's stuck. I don't know how you would tie the moch into your ear. You would tie a string on your ear. It's very difficult. Somehow we were afraid she would take it out, which makes sense. If you've got cotton in your ear, you might take it out. It's bothering you, and then you would carry it. That might be a problem. But pilpil, let's say she has a pilpil. She has a peppercorn. Ubegargir melach, or she has a pebble of salt. The reason she'd have a peppercorn is because her breath smells. So I guess they felt pepper breath was better than whatever other breath they had. Gargir melach, they would suck on salt for the same reason, I think. The Kahati says she would suck on a gargir melach. Oh, because her teeth hurt. Whatever she would put in her mouth. Ubilvaj lo yiten lechachila b'Shabbat. We're going to come on to this later on. She's not allowed to. You're not allowed to put in the pepper, or specifically not the pepper. 1 second, but the melach for sure. Let's say the salt pebble. She puts it in her mouth because her teeth hurt, and if her teeth hurt, then that's called michlush ba'alma, and she's doing it in order to have something that's refuah, in order for health reasons. And we're going to see later Mishnayot that there's an isur of doing things that are for health reasons if it's just a michlush ba'alma. Michlush ba'alma means she doesn't feel great, okay? And if you're not allowed to do something michlush ba'alma because of gzeira of tochein, because they would do what's called shchikat samamnim. They would crush their medicines. So therefore, they wouldn't even let them put a gargir melach to suck on a salt pebble, or nowadays to take a throat lozenge, because your throat is bothering you a little bit, because of that gzeira of tochen. People would then create medicines on Shabbat. That's why you're not allowed to use it on Shabbat. But if she had the salt pebble in her mouth from before Shabbat, and she walks outside, that's fine. But if it fell out of her mouth, lo tachzir, she shouldn't put it back. Shein tochevet v'shein shel zahav. Shein tochevet means she has a replacement tooth, or shein shel zahav, a gold crown. Rebbe matir v'chachamim marmin. Rebbe says she's allowed to go out with it on Shabbat, and chachamim say no, she shouldn't go out with it on Shabbat. Maybe people will mock her, or she'll try to take it out. Maybe the women want to see it. Obviously, all the things don't relate to our teeth because they're considered permanent. They're stuck on permanently. I would just say all these things is sometimes difficult for us to relate to and appreciate. Nonetheless, these are things that Chazal instituted because they saw that they were clearly leading to Hotzah and Mishut HaRabim. We'll stop here. As always, we'll dedicate the learning to the memory of my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman, and here's my email address. Have a good day.